Welcome to Right versus Left News, your daily briefing on the stories that matter, told from both sides of the aisle. I'm your AI host, Chris, and each day I bring you the most important political and cultural news, with perspectives from conservative and progressive voices. No spin, no agenda, just the facts and the opinions that shape our national conversation. Let's dive in. Today we're tracking 5 big developments. First, the White House says the United States will start guiding stranded ships through the Strait of Hormuz as early as this morning, a major turn in how the Iran conflict is spilling into global commerce. Second, European leaders are in Yerevan, Armenia, for the European Political Community meeting, followed tomorrow by the first ever EU-Armenia summit. Third, in Canberra, Australia and Japan just announced new deals on energy security and critical minerals. Fourth, Georgia's 14th district holds a special House runoff to fill the seat vacated by Marjorie Taylor Greene. And fifth, Wisconsin voters choose a new justice in a state Supreme Court race with national implications. Let's get into it. Before we jump into today's stories, a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values. Whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at Family GPT Chat.
Thanks to our sponsors for supporting Right vs. Left News. Now, let's get to the headlines. In the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump said Sunday the United States would begin today, Monday, May 4th, helping guide neutral ships that have been stuck after months of disrupted traffic and crew hardships. According to reporting from AP, PBS NewsHour, Reuters, and The Washington Post, the initiative, called Project Freedom, began overnight, with a US-led task force urging ships to coordinate closely with Oman as an enhanced security area opens south of the usual routes. US Central Command signaled support for restoring freedom of navigation. Iran, meanwhile, warned that any interference would violate ceasefire terms and be met with force. Oil prices initially eased on the news. Conservative outlets framed the operation as overdue, but necessary to counter Iran's asymmetric threats, mines, drones, and small craft, and to demonstrate US resolve. Some former CENTCOM leaders say escorts are a first step meant to deter harassment while backing a broader coercive strategy. They emphasize Allied participation, but argue Washington shouldn't wait on Europe to act. Liberal and centrist outlets highlight escalation risks and unclear rules of engagement, asking whether escorts could slide into direct clashes after recent incidents in the Gulf. Some call the move reactive damage control that could widen the war's footprint, while others note the tension between humanitarian justifications and the lack of operational specifics. Europe's diplomacy converges on Yerevan today. Roughly 45 leaders are meeting at the European Political Community, followed tomorrow by the first ever EU-Armenia summit with European Council President Antonio Costa and Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The message is deeper EU-Armenia ties amid pressure from Moscow, with European experts also heading in to help counter disinformation and meddling. The agenda and timing are now confirmed. Conservative commentators argue Europe's security posture still leans on the United States, and warn that the EU's speech and tech rules can encroach on free expression. On enlargement and neighbourhood policy, they urge caution, asking whether a rapid political embrace of vulnerable partners risks creating expectations the EU can't back militarily without American muscle. Centre-left voices cast the Yerevan meetings as democratic solidarity, supporting reformers in Armenia, deterring external interference, and building long-term economic and security resilience. Analysts say the symbolism is strong, but the EU will need to deliver concrete assistance if it wants Armenia to sustain a westward course. In Canberra, Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi and Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced new agreements to deepen cooperation on energy security, LNG flows and critical minerals, plus funding to shore up supply chains. The package totals about $1.67 billion Australian dollars for mining, refining and manufacturing projects. The leaders also discussed China, the Pacific, and regional risks tied to the Iran war's shock to oil routes. Conservatives praise alliances that reduce dependence on China for rare earths and strategic metals, calling them vital to defense manufacturing and to the energy transition on non-Chinese terms. They push for stockpiles and friendshoring to blunt Beijing's leverage over minerals and magnets. Center-left voices welcome the cooperation, but want climate ambition baked in. More clean energy investment, transparency on LNG's climate impact, and community protections around new mines. In Australia, that debate plays out over fuel prices, renewables, and indigenous and local impacts, with progressives wary of locking in long fossil pathways. We'll be right back with more of today's news after this brief message.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values. Whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat.
Thanks again to our sponsors. Now back to the news. In Georgia's 14th Congressional District, voters head to a special runoff today to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene, who resigned after a very public split with President Trump. The race features Republican Clay Fuller, a district attorney backed by Trump, against Democrat Sean Harris, a farmer and retired Army general. It's a deep red seat, but the outcome still matters for the House math in a narrowly divided chamber. Conservatives frame May's slate of primaries and specials as a test of Trump's endorsement power, especially in intra-GOP battles and red strongholds. If Fuller wins comfortably, they'll call it validation of MAGA influence heading into the midterms. If margins narrow, expect questions about candidate quality and turnout. Democrats focus on whether they can outperform historic baselines with suburban and veteran voters, and whether GOP divisions after Greene's exit will dent margins. Progressives also highlight local issues, healthcare, schools, and infrastructure, that could make deep red districts marginally more competitive over time. Wisconsin votes today for a 10-year term on its state Supreme Court, where liberals currently hold a 4-3 edge. The open seat, after conservative Justice Rebecca Bradley declined to run, pits liberal appeals judge Chris Taylor against conservative appeals judge Maria Lazar. The outcome could shape rulings on abortion, maps, and election rules in a presidential battleground. Conservative voices note past cycles where the right underinvested in judicial races, warning that another loss would cement a lopsided court and shape everything from redistricting to school policy. They cast the race as a choice between judicial restraint and progressive policymaking from the bench. Liberal outlets underscore reproductive rights, voting access, and fair maps, arguing that court majorities have real-world consequences for Wisconsinites. Even a single seat can tip precedent on closely divided questions. Quick recap. The United States starts guiding ships through Hormuz as Europe convenes in Armenia. Australia and Japan lock in energy and minerals ties, and 2 U.S. elections, Georgia's special House runoff and a consequential Wisconsin Supreme Court race, could preview the political winds heading into the midterms. We'll be watching results and fallout through the evening and into tomorrow. That's it for today's episode of Right versus Left News. Remember, understanding both sides isn't about picking a team, it's about being informed. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join us tomorrow for another balanced look at the day's biggest stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.